What's up, kids? Peter from Panda here. Hey, just received this watch that I ordered. It's Movement. And what I've noticed here, this is going to be a true unboxing. The packaging is slightly different than the other Movement watches that I've gotten. I ordered actually a few of them, so this is the first. It actually comes in this long watch box, so I'm assuming it's a watch. Little foam insert there, silica gel, don't eat that. I've always kind of wanted to eat it because it always says don't eat on it. And here is the watch. So this is actually a different box than the other chronograph, my white chronograph that I have, that came in that clamshell fabric case. This one comes in this box and folded over. I like it. It has a red insert there, a little bit of a kind of a microfiber-ish inner custom cutout with the logo painted there. So looks a little bit like a coffin. I won't hold that against it. And the watch is pretty cold, so kind of keep that in mind. But here it is. This is one of their most recent chronographs. And the color scheme, I think, is what is really new. So when I first saw Movement watches, the one I really fell in love with was the Chrono. I got it in white. I think at the same time they came out with the black one. But if you've ever seen the black one, it actually has black or dark hands on it. This one has these baby blue, kind of sky blue colored hands. And it's still blacked out though, so makes it a little bit more readable, but still looks simple, dark, and badass. All right, so it's gonna keep fogging up here because it's really cold. First thing I want to show you here is the band, leather, genuine leather. It is kind of a khaki, has just a little bit of like antique weathered look to it, kind of little dark raised spots, but it's very much right in that light brown tan category. 24 millimeters, I believe, all the way across, and it's not tapered. And then I do like that instead of the round end, I like these square ends. The other thing I really like here is they give you a lot of holes on the band, and they're square cut, not round cut, so the tongue fits into it and holds it really nice firmly in place. And then there's a lot of pretty close holes so that you can adjust it to pretty much any type of wrist. Again, same thing on this end. This loop here, this retaining loop, is static. This one slides, and then the buckle here itself is black as well. And I think it's the black plating, the same, exactly the same plating that is on the case. And if I put them up here, you know, it's a little hard to see because the light is catching them a little bit differently. But they're basically the same sheen, and this is metal with the Movement logo right on there. Genuine leather on there, Movement logo right there. So very, very cool. The watch bands that they come with are really nice quality, kind of the burnished edge here. They're thick though. So one of the things I know I've seen comments on is people like, oh, it's so hard to break it in. Why is the band so thick? Why is it so stiff? These bands aren't particularly stiff for how thick they are, but that's one of the things if you're really used to kind of the supple, thin form fitting bands, this is not one of them, but it kind of lends to its really modern, futuristic, but simple and clean look. All right, on to the case. So 45 millimeter stainless steel case, very cylindrical. The sides here, you know, the lower 75% of the case here has a little bit of a brushed grain to it, kind of going straight up. So the lugs dip down a little bit, all integrated right there. The brushed look continues all the way around, even on the negative spot here between the lugs. And, you know, some sharp edges here, not uncomfortable, but if you're familiar with Breitlings, all of these edges here are a little bit rounded and everything feels really soft. I like that you have some kind of sharp edges there. It kind of completes that modern look. The bezel here is angled at basically a 45-degree angle and has some nice thickness to it. And the hardened mineral crystal, which is one of the things that I'm not a big fan of, but in this price point, I won't complain about it too much. But I would have loved to have seen a sapphire crystal there with anti-reflective coating. It is just a little bit raised from the bezel. And one of the reasons that I would prefer a sapphire crystal here is when the crystal does hover above the bezel, despite how slight this is, if you get little nicks, they can show up right on the edge of the crystal, and that kind of annoys me, especially when you get little divots because you've hit it on a wall, hit it on corridor, hit it on the edge of a desk while walking by something. I've even hit them on displays, walking through stores and stuff like that. When you have a stronger crystal, it kind of takes some of that abuse and shrugs it off, but mineral crystals tend to show it a little bit. On the side are the pushers, also in this ion plated, I assume. It's a really nice plating. I mean, I like the fact that it's not super dark. It actually reminds me of my ball watch. It's kind of got a little bit of that charcoal gray feeling, not the super black. Like this case is straight up black, and in the light it might be a little hard, but the black ion plating that I like here is it's kind of like a really dark gunmetal. So I like that. It's really consistent. The plating is done really nicely on the case and on the crowns and the pusher here. So the crown has a little bit of a knurling, a little bit of a coin edge there with the movement logo cut into there. And then the pushers are kind of traditional flat plunger style. They look great. They're simple. They're functional. And, again, everything there looks high quality. Let's go ahead and press one of them. Am I right in looking at this, that the chronograph is the middle subdial there? Because if I hit it again, should stop. And this seems to reset it. And it's a flyback. Not super fast, but it's a flyback. So that's kind of nice. Everything here clicks with authority. Feels pretty good. A Miyota Quartz movement here. So nothing super fancy, but it should be dead nuts reliable. And if I take a look at the dial here, it's going to be very much like the white watch, but obviously the color scheme is going to be a little different. One of the things that I love about what they've done here is just keep it kind of Scandinavian simple. And what I also like is that they have basically made kind of their version of a sunk dial. So you've got this large, kind of metallic, it's a very smooth finish, but it's not mirror reflective, so you can see the dial doesn't reflect any image, but it has just a little bit of that cool kind of anodized aluminum sheen to it. But that sunk look is basically either pressed or milled, or even maybe it's two pieces, but I kind of doubt they've done that. But the subdials look like they're sunk in, and the movement logo also is kind of sunk. You can see it. You can see that they're not just painted on there. They are literally a millimeter lower than the rest of the dial, or half a millimeter. Date window in here, and I do like the fact that the date window dial is black to match the rest of the dial. Now, to my eye, and it may be the way the light is capturing it, but the paint for the background on the date window seems to be just a smidge darker than the main dial, but forgivable. Like I said, at this price point, it actually may be the exact same, but the amount of light is capturing because of its design, that it's a little behind maybe what's creating that optical illusion. Offset there right at the 4 o'clock or 4:30 position. And then the really deep bezel that goes all the way around kind of reminds me of a futuristic car alloy wheel. And it looks like applied hour markers there, which are also the same color. So just a lot of subtle touches. It kind of adds texture, but your eye doesn't run to it because it's a bright color or because it's luminescent or anything like that. And I like that. Just it really strikes the right balance between simple, clean design, but also kind of honoring those details and executing them well. The last thing I want to show you here is the hands. The hour and the minute hands are that same color as the metal here. So like they look like an ion plated aluminum. They're just a little bit different sheen as well from the dial, so they do stand out, but really in bright light. If you kind of get it in darker light, I know some people have looked at my diesel watch and complained, well, it's a gunmetal face and gunmetal colored hands. Yeah, you can lose them in low light pretty easily. I can even just kind of in good light here at the wrong angle, they're going to be really hard to make out. Like I said, the baby blue pointers and hands in the second hand there are almost the things that jump out. I don't know if I'd reverse that. You don't want the real broad hour and minute hands to maybe be that obvious, especially because they take up a fair amount of real estate. I like how they're skeletonized there. Just a lot of good details, a lot of value for what you get in movement watches. So, a direct-to-consumer brand, the story probably. I would check it out. I really like this watch. I think at retail it's about $120. You get a lot. You get a lot of style, and it's something you could definitely wear to work or out and about, and feel right at home in kind of a lot of situations. So Peter von Panda for the Movement Black and Tan 3-dial chronograph. Out.